When it's time to begin your APMC, do you often feel befuddled, like you just need to go and hide? That some of these questions are just too doggone difficult? Have no fear. Joanne and friends are here to help guide you if you're feeling lost and need help. Let's get started.
29. As it is used in lines 15 to 16, the word periods may be best defined as... Joe, would you like to show us the answer? B. Sentences. That's right! If you look back to lines 15 to 16, we see the word grammatical rules, and when I hear of grammatical rules, I think of syntax and what the sentence is comprised of, which is words, and that leaves us with answers B and D. The next sentence mentioned well-turned periods, which means eloquently expressed. We know that marks of punctuation cannot be eloquently expressed, leaving us with B as the answer.
Number 30. In line 30, the words ones refers to what? Okay, so if we take a look back at line 30 and the few lines preceding it, the man's want for words is used to communicate his complex ideas. We may mislead ourselves into picking C, ideas. However, if we look back, his complex ideas are composed by words. So, our final answer is A, words. Did you catch that?
31. In the second paragraph, the shift from the first sentence to the second sentence can be best described as one from D, figurative to literal. In the first sentence, the author is talking about complex ideas without particular names to them, meaning that he has the ideas in his head, but he does not know how to physically express them using the correct words. In the second sentence, the author is talking about a man is hindered in his discourse for want of words to communicate his complex ideas, meaning that he knows what words to use and physically speak using them, but he does not know what the idea he is trying to express is.
Number 32. Alright, so the comparison of lines 18 to 25 likens words to E, the binding of a book. So let's look back at the second paragraph, shall we? When looking at this passage, we should pick up on the words unbound and loose sheets. So, in accordance to volumes, it means that the printed pages, or in this case, loose sheets, are not bound together, while for a book it entails it not being provided with a proper or permanent cover. Now we can dwindle down the answers and see that E best corresponds with the selected words from paragraph 2.
In the first and second paragraphs, the author supports his arguments by the use of what? Joe, take it away. A. Analogies. Now that wasn't too rough, was it? If we take a look back at paragraphs 1 and 2, we can eliminate all of the wrong choices simply by checking to see if we noted any use of rhetorical devices or unique sentence structuring. By the looks of it, there were no signs of personification or hyperboles, and absolutely no rhetorical questions. Now it is down to choice A, analogies, and choice C, understatement. Looking into the context of the word understatement, meaning the presentation of something being less important than it actually is, the author is not meaning to denote his ideas. Further, he uses analogies to compare punctuation, such as periods, to bare sounds, ideas as pages, and words or the way you say them as the title.
In line 38, the word fair is best understood to mean, Joe, would you like to reveal the answer? That's right, A, equitable. Now how do we know this? By using context clues, of course. If we go to line 38, we can see that the author is making a comparison. In context, what words can we substitute in this? Maybe something along the lines of, he ought to pass in school and conversation for as much as or equal to a man as, so on. And equitable is synonymous with equal. Now, let's look at the other answers. All these answers are synonyms for fair, but of different context usage. Attractive wouldn't work in the sentence and is quite irrelevant to the piece. Clement has to do with nice weather. Unblemished usually refers to skin, and average is used when talking about something being reasonable or tolerable. For example, the small new restaurant was fair. So, E makes the best sense.
Number 35. The third paragraph of the passage, lines 33 through 40, is an example of Joe? Right, C, a periodic sentence. Right away, by looking at the sentence structure of the third paragraph, we see that its order begins with a subordinate clause, then the main clause. The word periodic sentence actually means the main clause is at the end of the sentence versus usually being at the beginning. So right away, that should be taken into consideration. Also, the word that initiates, it is the middle of the sentence, and grammatically, that initiates a subordinate clause. Now we can again use elimination for answers A, B, D, and E to narrow down our choices of answers. A loose sentence, extended metaphor, and antithesis do not exhibit exactly what is being conveyed, and an ad hominem reveals inconsistency within an argument which clearly does not occur. Therefore, a periodic sentence is the best choice.
In line 58, substances are contrasted with what? If we take a look back to line 58, the author is talking about ideas in his head which have not any correspondence with the real nature of things, showing that substances are being compared to the author's imaginary ideas. But Joe, is that the right answer? Imagining is not correct because we are looking for what the author is contrasting substances with, which would be D. 37. Which of the following best describes the organization of the first 5 of the 6 paragraphs in the passage? The answer is E. Paragraphs 1 and 2, semicolon, paragraphs 3 and 4, semicolon, paragraph 5. Paragraphs 1 and 2 are both about the juxtaposition of the idea of words and the concepts they perceive. Paragraphs 3 and 4 are about different words and their connotations or different meanings. And lastly, paragraph 5 is how the author perceives different words.
Number 38. Which of the following best describes the relation of the last paragraph to the rest of the passage? D. It sums up the contents of the first 5 paragraphs. So, as we know, a final paragraph usually concludes a piece, and as we do in our writing, should sum up what we've talked about. But how can we be sure in this piece? Well, you can see a parallelism in each paragraph with the he, that, and introduces a trait about each one. He uses this parallelism again in the last paragraph with the he, that, and if you look closely, you'll see that each one corresponds to each paragraph's main point. So there you have it.
39. Which of the following is the meaning of the word chimeras that can be inferred from its use in the last sentence of the passage, line 84? So when you think of chimera, I am sure many of you look something like this. But have no fear. In line 84, paragraph 6 of the passage, a chimera is, in ancient Greek mythology, refers to a fire-breathing female monster that has a lion's head. However, chimera in its context means an illusion or fabrication of the mind. In order to hone in on an answer, we need to eliminate religious revelations, oriental potentates, and philosophical distinctions, since they were not actively mentioned in the passage. If you're thinking the answer is D, logical conclusions, remember that the passage is not based on the man's logic, but only his fantasies. Therefore, when we think of fire-breathing monsters like chimera, we know it is more of a fantasy than a logical reality, so the answer must be A, fabulous monsters. Joe, is A, fabulous monsters right?
Number 40. In which paragraph is a person who misunderstands the meaning of the word refuse and frequently uses it to mean agree described? As Christina mentioned earlier, we've already established that paragraphs 3 and 4 involve the use of words relating to their connotations and the speaker's diction, so we know that C and D could work. If we look to compare the two, the third paragraph deals with using a word to mean several things, while the fourth shows that he's misusing words that seem foreign to others and are misnomered. So D, the fourth paragraph, best corresponds with the man who frequently misuses and misunderstands the meaning of refuse. Number 41. In which paragraph does the passage deal with a speaker or writer who would use the word apple to denote a fruit, animal, and an article of footwear? Now let's see. This guy is frequently using his words to mean too many things. Confusing much? So did you catch the answer in the passage? Let's head back to paragraph 3. He that puts not constantly the same sign for the same idea, but uses the same word, sometimes in one and sometimes in another signification. That sounds pretty much the same as our answer, and guess what? It is, right, Joe?
42. Which of the following does the passage use as a synonym for word? 1. Term. 2. Name. 3. Sign. If you go back to the passage, you will see that the author uses term for word in line 7, use of hard words or learned terms. He uses name for word in line 40, who sells several things under the same name, and he uses sign for word in line 34, not constantly the same sign for the same idea, but uses the same words, sometimes in one. Since the passage uses all 3 terms, the answer would be E, 1, 2, and 3.
always get down. Get back gruffy, back scruffy. Get back to playing best in mongrel. When I tell myself, hey, man, no getting great.